The Butt Kicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we wanna create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Today, as drivers get themselves situated in through the United Kingdom, plenty of challenges await the drivers of the Precision Racing League. After a recent update to the iRacing service, these cars and these drivers for the GT3 machinery are looking to see how they can adapt over the course of 24 plus hours. We start things up for tonight's action on this beautiful Tuesday with Fixed Series competition powered by VCO from iRacing's virtual Silverstone circuit. Good evening, everyone. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside the move for today's adventure is Lorenzo Bonder, along with our producer, Connery Maddock, as we get ready to see which drivers are able to adapt a new update, and in turn, new car characteristics and a different fields of the tires, Lorenzo. Major talking points with drivers preparing for this race over the course of the past 24 plus hours to make sure they're ready.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race because some of the dynamics of the car changed. So the setups that actually existed on the previous BOP, some of them are not even usable anymore. So they're gonna have to be remade in the nick of time. But this is the Fixed Series, so it's a little bit easier. So it's just readapting with the car itself and finding the grooves around the track, and see where this new Fixed BOP will stand in comparison to the old BOP, where we had a proper idea as we look at the schedule.
And for those who are tuning in for the first time this season, we are approaching the midway point in the next few weeks or so. After the holiday break, last time out, it was the Circuit of Spa-Francorchamps for the drivers to have to face. Remember, they started off the season with an adventurous one at the Red Bull Ring for both the series, as well as the run at Monza the following week. And this schedule, keep in mind, is a mixture of complex Grand Prix style circuits, but also some of the street circuits and some of the drafting tracks. Long Beach, Daytona, Road America, for example, really stand out towards the latter half of the season.
Yeah, and right now I would say that we are in probably one of the most technical, if not the most technical 3 tracks of the season. Of course, Long Beach, around America, Okayama has their technicalities, but we just went to Spa, highly technical and very long, the longest one of the season. Silverstone is highly difficult for you to drive, especially how those cars playing on the ground and the left tires take a beating. As we look at the standings here, Justin, but again, should prove to be a good race, and can't wait to see how it goes in a little bit.
Michael Tarafiano leads the way this season so far for Team Beef in the Fixed Series, followed by Rexoy, followed by Matt Sharif, along with Mauricio Million and Steven Martinez amongst the top 5. The interesting thing to note, past Jay Steffi and 6 in the points, the next 2 drivers on back have either had a DNF or a DNS. Michael Parabano, along with Rob Campbell, having issues in the early going in their respective Lamborghinis. While Michael Kalaga, along with Angelo Veloz, looking to see if they can find themselves some good points. Keep in mind, the We Race Esports driver went from 1 point in 1 round to a victory the next. Keep in mind, Vulture Motorsports is the top organization this season in the terms of the team standings. Third team entries, 1 and 2. Keep an eye on Forge Racing Team Gold and Lunatic Motorsport Moonlight Speed Racing amongst those within a race distance. Drivers in the midst of their final preparations for today, we'd like to remind you that today's action is brought to you in part by VCO, here from iRacing's virtual Silverstone circuit. Tonight's action also is brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Tonight also brought to you in part by Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted are button boxes, enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount. Precision 5 coupon code. Race Lab also is someone who presents tonight's action in part. They help improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. The Butt Kicker includes products with incredible immersion that bring realism to every game. However you want to enjoy, put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic with the goal to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. Looking for a high-end pedal set, a handbrake, or sequential shifter? Visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. And tonight's action also in turn brought to you by Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit Ninja Trader to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking performance. Let's get to tracking how qualifying is going for these drivers tonight. Drivers have 10 minutes, 4 solo qualifying laps to see where they can start here at Silverstone. 18 turns, 3.66 miles around the home for British Motor Racing tonight, Lorenzo, with high expectations for many of these competitors, but the chance of the potential of unknowns with how some of these adjustments could play out for many others. Your thoughts on what we may see in turns tonight when it comes to a track like this with the long sections it does have?
So it's going to be interesting. First thing, like I said before, the left-hand tires are going to take a beating. So this is the first thing they're going to be maybe thinking coming in whenever if they have to make a stop or something like that. Oh, should I change the left-hand tires? Because now apparently you can change tires as the same way you're actually doing fuel. So that's a game changer of sorts. It's kind of like what it is done of IMSA. So with that being said, as we see Eric Kalaga doing his laps around the track, a track that normally was dominated by Audis and a little bit of Lamborghinis, now even in fixed series, I really want to see if, how the other cars will be in level pegging in comparison to the German brands, like Lamborghini, like McLaren, like the Ford itself. And from what it looks like, that Ford, even though it's archaic in comparison of electronics compared to the other cars, it's performing well around the English track.
I was about to say, that's the understatement of the day. The Ford is in fourth. Eric Kalaga switched to the Ford, mind you, after the opening round of the campaign. But it is Michael Terrafino, the points leader for this season, who is 3/10 off the pole time, being set by YS Motorsport machine Michael Babylano, who is having that 159.7 up at the top of the board. Keep in mind, when it comes to these respective cars tonight, drivers did get an indication that they have a week to decide if they want to switch cars. There is one free driver change for the car, I should say, as a result of the BLB adjustment, as long as you confirm that by January the 17th. As we take a look right now at Michael Terrafino, it's going to be intriguing again how this plays out. The difference in some of the drivers and times in final practice was up as high as 6 seconds in months 30 or 40 so who took practice times, Renzo.
And it's not surprising for me to see this major gap in terms of laps, to be very honest with you, Justin, because, like I said, Silverstone is a very, very tricky track for you to navigate, especially when trying to find the right groove around the track. You know, the first sector is tricky enough as it is. You know, you just turn number 1 is already high speed when you go down from Abbey to Far Curve, and you just go around the loop and get out Aintree to the Wellington Straight. Then you go into second tricky section, going into Cops and going through the Maggotts, Beckett's and Chapel complexes of turns. So it's always on the edge. So it's always the car is always looking for grip, but it's always on the limit of the grip. That sometimes that one mistake, that tiny mistake, is already enough for your qualify to be invalidated. So that's the problematic part. Where do you want to save the grip for you to actually push the car around the track and really get that top performance?
Terrafino is seen as he came across the stripe last time by the way, did jump up 4/10. One driver who may have a shot to try and join the jump up party. This is Rexoy looking to gain about half a second to try and get the pole time. Kalaga and Campbell amongst the drivers in the top 10 still on the circuit. Matt Sheriff along with Alex Wrights as well as Matt Dinsmore also trying to set times as well as at least 15-20 others. Colin McKenzie also planning to do the same as you see right now with Lunatic. Looking to see if he can get that Moonlight Speed powered car around? No. Instead, the session says you're out of time. It's time to prepare for the race in turn. 35 minutes up on the clock tonight, and a massive field of drivers registered, 44 entrants for tonight's fixed action for the PRL's GT3 cars powered by VCO. It's time to see how they'll start tonight from Silverstone. The top drivers amongst the top 5 separated by about half a second. As talked about throughout the qualifying session, drivers like Michael Terrafino looking to see if they can move the momentum forward and get ready to see how they fare for the green flag down the front straightaway. Michael Terrafino setting the top time in the qualifying session, by the way, a 1:59.6 today over Michael Arabaro's 1:59.7. Rodrigo Morales starts in third today, Rexoy. Eric Kalaga, the Ford. Yes, the Ford. In what decade? Starts in 5th. Rob Campbell rounds out the top 6. Sully Sayad starts in 7th today with Belows in the 8th spot. Luna and Venero the top 10. Matt Sheriff, one of the drivers amongst the higher up spots in the point standings, in 11th today. Alex Wrights all the way back in 12th spot, about 1.2 seconds off the pole. Dinsmore, Doucette, Michael Kalaga the top 15. Nina Vella in 16th. Colin McKenzie, Jason Longridge, top 18 around the midway point. 19th spot goes to Robert Deloach today, who will start in his Ferrari alongside Nicholas Carenjas, who set the 2:01.2 time. About 300s back. Buck Hamilton starts 21st. Bill Arrow in 22nd. Looking through quickly, the rest of your grid drivers have about half a lap to be able to get themselves situated for today's green. Amongst the notables towards the back today, Ryan Chandler, who was fairly quick in some of the rounds earlier in the campaign, starting 32nd. Others, like Gary Weaver, looking to try and keep it clean after what was a nightmarish time in PRL action last week at Bathurst and Open Wheel cars. All drivers took times. The slowest time of the 2:06 is the fastest of the 1:59 second bracket. Your keys to victory today as we already get set for the launch.
If you're in the middle, move up. If you're in the front, try to break away as max as possible.
Terrafino already is on the loud pedal way before they make the front straightaway. We're underway from Silverstone. Several drivers already single file making their way to the first corners up through Abbey up to Farm. A great start for the top two. Everybody else caught sleeping already just about a full second back. When you talk about massive jumps to start, Terrafino Abelardo absolutely timed it up. 1.6 seconds the gap. There's those two. They look to battle it up for the lead as they make their way down the straightaway, down Wellington Straight.
Yeah, it looked like Terrafino might have dripped out a little bit and coming out, going into the loop and open the door for PRL to come in and try to make that overtake. But maybe the beefiness out of the M6, the M4 actually was just too strong for the Lamborghini to try to keep with it. And unfortunately for PRL, all he has to do is just get back and be passenger of chaos for a little bit and just ride that draft as we see Velas defending from Saad going into Cobb's turn.
79 looking to position things. Still spotting the opening going already. Velas though a little bit quicker and off the circuit. Hold on to it though at the edges of the runoff area on the pavement. Opens up the door to the bottom side. Also defense right there. That 1 second plus gap we just talked about up from the opening launch is already gone, by the way. Rexoy, Morales, Campbell, and Eric Kalaga have worked together to close it. These cars have already lost that tow, however, of Kalaga and co.
Yeah, and we're going to see maybe the Audi on the inside here. Justin probably going to make that overtake because if Velas really want to be a little bit smart, let that Audi go through. Naturally, it's a little bit better around this track. The Ferrari can keep up with the draft and conserve the tire because the tire life on the Ferrari is a little bit worse as they're going down through Vale. Is he going to fight it? Looks like.
This is trying. Get the preferred line for the first part. Going up towards Club now to the outside groove. There goes the 079 back to where they started this race. However, gap already nearly 3 seconds to Eric Kalaga's 4. That's going to be the tough thing today. You have to think, Lorenzo, choosing when to pass and when to work together with somebody. Already significant gaps with some of the battles, building as many as 3 seconds in the pack.
Yeah, and now we're taking a quick look from Rodrigo Morales going into the loop and followed by closely with Campbell right not far behind, and was trying to look for a move on the inside of the loop, maybe catch the Mercedes AMG off bar a little bit. But yeah, it's so tricky because if you don't make that a right overtake, you can lose up to 3/10, 4/10 of a second just in one corner specifically, and because you're switching corners so quickly, you're making so many moves like left, and then you have to go right again, like you just done over here to Brooksfield and Littlefield. It's hard to find your groove on the laps after that, but let's see what they have been set for these 35 minutes around the track.
Amongst those drivers who have gained a few spots in the span of a lap and a half, by the way, is Colin McKenzie, up 2 spots so far. So far, we've seen some good things when it comes to Lunatic Moonlight Speed Racing at some of the higher speed tracks throughout the campaign. Keep in mind, Rob Campbell's top 10 points for them overall as a driver. McKenzie 16th in the driver standing so far this season, looking to try and see if he can get in the top 5 for the first time this year. Kind of already see, Lorenzo, just how difficult it could be to set things up unless you get a major run of the draft, such as this by Alex Wright.
Yeah, and good move from Wright right there. Not pun intended, but now has to set himself over. Vale looks like the Lamborghini is going to have to defend himself from Vela, but Vela, I think, lifted up a little bit. Just try to be the patient guy. You are in a train. If you cannot make that overtake work, and while not losing position or getting maybe battle with someone else in the progress, that's good enough for you. So that's a smart move from Vela. Don't contest while it is early on. You still got to do maybe a small pit stop and see where it will lead you to the end of the race.
Wait and see how the strategy plays out. So critical when it comes to these races, remember. We've seen several times over the seasons drivers have these races make or break themselves just a couple seconds in the pit delta. Take a look back at the 15 McKenzie. Now up for grabs yet again with the run. This time it's Jason Lockridge in one of the Ferraris up the left side for Forge.
Oh,
And that's a slowdown situation, looks like, for Ryan Luna, who is running in 12th. And our car off the track for good measure, 2 off the circuit. That's Matt Dinsmore. Dinsmore for Throttle Thursday, not having a fun time on a Tuesday.
yeah, unfortunately, and I think it was right about the top 15 still. So something that has happened, but have happened, you know, a dive on the inside of Littlefield, but I really want to look on the replay to confirm if it is actually the theory, because you're changing directions, and again, the rear can get really loose around those corners. So unfortunate for him, but again, still a long race left here in the English track.
Here's the reason for the first trouble. You see the slide that cost him a few seconds. It's more so Dinsmore that got a bigger loss after he zipped by, having to go the outside. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
You seen that latter part of the spin right there, and it was talked about a little bit by DJ Clark last night. If you're outside of the preferred groove after a few laps of rubber buildup, you may or may not see this.
Just
Took a wide.
looks like he overcommitted into Littlefield, and by the time he realized it and had to maybe bring the car into the inside, unfortunately, the number 3 just, you know, completely lost control. The rear just gave up, and nothing that the traction control can actually kick in and save him from there.
Looking back at your top 2, they have started to work together, about half a second the difference. Terrafino the lead car. Abuano currently in second position on the circuit. Rexoy is trying to find a way to stay within about 1 second, is just getting maybe a small whiff of the draft from these two. The rest of the field 5 seconds back of your overall race leader. Not a surprise, though, when it comes to the consistency expected from these 3. Compare that to the Hornet's Nest behind them. It's not so easy to find in the heart of the pack like this.
Yeah, I wonder if it is a little bit unnerving for some of these drivers, you know, because you really want to try to make ground, and because you're making lots of battles in the progress here, Justin, we're probably going to see something on the inside. Ranges have to defend on the outside from what it looks like, but it's so many things going on around the track. It's hard to follow, and Somonado comes.
Then towards the back, off the circuit goes car 235. That is Robert Deloche with some troubles for Forge Racing Team Gold. One of the top organizations in the team standings having a bit of struggles with one of their top better drivers. Addison coming with the 2x2.
Yeah, rear just completely gave away. You know, it's kind of like you're in the draft, you maybe got some air wash in the car, and because you might have overcommitted into the entry, try to go too fast into the corner, and the mechanical grip of the car is not good enough for you to be in a clean run with these cars in front of you. It's a mid corner, but this is what happens is you need that grip, and unfortunately he didn't get it, and the rear just completely gave out, and thus causing the spin. Luckily, no crash.
Now before tonight's action, Pat Sheriff reached out as he tonight is running a tribute paint scheme for Ken Block. Ken Block, of course, passing away last week, Lorenzo, wanting to pay tribute to the motorsports legend. A big part and a big impact in his respective discipline over the years.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate for me. Ken is like a personal hero. I think one of the reasons I followed Gincana and also a little bit of rally as well. I know popularization of rally in America is kind of like partially attributed to Ken, even though he wasn't the greatest rally driver in the WRC standards. As we see one more car spinning, I'll wrap up my thought about that later.
The 259 car this time, that is Aiden Irvin.
Oh, my rejoin.
24th, and yeah, that rejoin a little bit scary. Couple cars going wide from it. Here is why that car was off. How about 3 wide down the Wellington straight? It worked until it didn't.
Oh. That was weird. It's kind of like maybe grip gave out, tried to save the car into the corner, and because of that, you know, just again, natural mistake. Like I said before, sometimes you need that rear, and you're overcommitting the car, you're overstressing the car, and it overheats the tires, and if the rear's overheat, and you're basically gone. But yeah, man, battles around the track. That's a good thing, at least we'd like to see, as now maybe Kalaga has to defend not far behind himself from side again on turn number 1.
No move back there, but keep an eye on Rodrigo Morales and Rob Campbell, who have built up nearly just about a 1 second buffer on those two. Keep in mind, with all the squabbling and all the fighting, the top two are running 1 to 2 seconds quicker a lap, Lorenzo. It seems that's going to be a very difficult thing to try and close up without some major luck.
Yeah, and I think for Terrafino and Pariano, I think they used their bad leaf. Here you go, moving on the inside. He's going to capitalize here, Justin. Doesn't look like it. Backs up a little bit from the Brazilian. Doesn't want to hit his back, but yeah, I think last race, Justin, we saw that the bad luck of Terrafino Pariano, I think, was used more than probably they wanted to when they both spun and gave basically the race to Velas, and he won his first PRL race. But let's see if they avoid the bad streak of luck here in the English track.
It's going to be important. Stay out of the incident points, especially because if you think back to just the start of the season alone, with how many drivers started to pick up DQs towards the final stage for incident points, it can really cost you. For those keeping track of how Gary Weaver's doing, by the way, he's gone off the track. He's back to 41st. Here comes the move in the backdrop on the Ford. And Eric Kalanka, after a strong qualifying run in that car, is now starting to fall behind. He's lost 10 seconds in leaders. He's dropped to 7th.
I'm not surprised to see him drop back a little bit. I think it's because the natural progression that the Audi gets a little bit better compared to the Ford. But then again, it's like what we said, Justin. The Ford is archaic. Don't get me wrong. I love the Ford. If I had the alternative of running a fixed series, especially when we can run the officials, I would use the Ford the heck out of it because I love the car. Don't get me wrong. Fast GT3 car, test me otherwise. Here goes dive. Nothing. But it's going to be tricky, you know, to try to keep that car and be consistent and very rapid around the track like this.
Battle for 4th and 5th position currently on the circuit. Top angle from the back wing of Morales. Bottom angle from over top, Rob Campbell's car. And Campbell's been aggressive on some of these attempts the past few laps. The problem's been finding the right sector to make this pass, it seems.
My thought is, like, if I'm Campbell, I'll try to do your best to feel safe as much as you can. I don't know if the pace that Morales have is a little bit worse than Campbell's. I don't know if this is the train thought on the back of his head at the current moment, Justin. But if it is me and your pace is pretty much similar, and you know you already have your Exoy is already away, you could go maybe for an overcut over here and try to make it work your way. By the time you have to do your stop and get the upper hand on the Brazilian driver ahead of you.
Let's say that's the countermark on staying behind somebody instead of trying to zip on by and then floor it on by for the big picture. But the major thing, may watch here with Morales. Couple of these very heartbreaking, couple of these very heartbreaking zones, even coming in through that last part of Chapel. The checkups have been pretty big all the way to the rear bumper. Eventually something has to give here, especially since 079 have said is almost getting there. Here comes Campbell. There's the give, and there's the block, Morales. Campbell showing his disappreciation, riding all the way to the rear wing, heading off to Village, and there he goes. Morales across the track. Morales saves it and runs it onto the runoff section. That drops Morales a couple spots back, but what a save by Morales to avoid spinning across into a car.
Yeah, that was a little bit lucky. The rejoin not so much because it nearly got in front of the in the back of the Audi. But well, let's be honest here, Justin. This was kind of like a little bit of a. We saw it coming from a mile away after this block. You know, heavily defending turn number 1. You already kind of gave up the entry. You're gonna give the better line to the Lamborghini driver, and you're already blocking the entry. But the problem is, you know, this movement during braking just not good enough. So we might see a slam dunk penalty, but maybe later for Campbell for this.
When come through the post race, especially when it comes to the series, there is road stewarding provided for these respective races and those respective reviews. Most of the incidents in the last round, for reference from Spot and Fix competition, seen minimal penalties, except for Jonathan Diggs with a 10-point penalty and Ryan Luna, who had a 5-point penalty. Everybody else had no further action or racing deals called in their respective troubles. But for the time being, the battle is on still 4-4. And as talked about, was ready to close up right before it, and now, guess who's cooking some popcorn to make some moves?
Assad picking up the pace on that Audi, and the Audi pre-new deploy here on iRacing was actually the preferred car around this track. It was the easiest one for you to navigate around. It gave you the better grip. Also, the difference between speed to acceleration and torque ratio was actually the better of the other cars. So, of course, not the best top speed and grip. Maybe that went to the Lamborghini or the Mercedes a little bit. So, good to see that Saad is making usage out of that car as we now look back around the track. There's a few battles going on, like I said before, as we see the Baron Glover. Not just because we have the 5-4 lead doesn't mean there's things going wrong in the middle of the track. That's the good thing about the Silverstone and things like that, is we see already some of the pit stops happening around the English track.
Number up 10, Chandler making a scheduled pit stop. He's already picked up some damage, you see there. So elected to split this race at about halfway. We are at halfway now in this event. And you can already see just with some of the steering pitch potentially, there is a slight delay in that. How much wheel he's having to input to make it out of the box, let alone around the edge of the track. And then once he gets up to speed, about 45 degrees at least on the angle.
Yeah, because you're coming out of turn number 1, you're coming out on the outside. The dangerous stuff is let's just say you have a faster car. Of course, they're all GT3, so that's a good thing for him because it is all one make. It makes the rejoin a lot easier. But let's just say you have like something. Oh, okay, something happened. That's
the other Chandler just happened. Indeed, problem. There's Ryan Chandler in this BMW, and then there's Ryan Chandler, who drives a Mercedes AMG. The latter of the two is no longer on the track. There was an issue down the Wellington Straight with a major block potentially from Steve Bammer. We may need to take a look at this. He took a huge slam to the left tire.
Yikes. Ooh. Yeah.
Go a little bit earlier and you'll see the reason.
Off the loop entry, that rejoin, not as bad as I thought it would be.
Wow.
That's the second time I've seen someone trying to make an overtake on the outside. People, just because Kevin Astra did at the Nürburgring doesn't mean you guys can pull it off too sometimes.
So as a result, one Chandler is doing fairly well. The other, not so much. By the way, the leaders are separated by 1 second still. They have now ditched Rexoy, who's lost touch of them and is losing half a second a lap. Terrafino and Babolano have been outright dominant today, near identical on pace, running their quickest laps of the race, in fact, currently in the 1:59 bracket.
Which is really good to see. And this is what I was talking about, being consistent, finding that grip, you know, pushing to the car while keeping this very stable. So apparently they found this balance and are taking advantage out of it instead of the other drivers on the track. That's why this championship, aside from Spa, and even at Spa, up to the failures they've made post pit stop, kind of has been a two-head championship so far, as they are kind of like battling on points and things like that. Even though Babayano had the DNS in round 2, but still Terrafino at a class of his own, and those who try to keep up with him just simply can't.
Blanca has now fallen back into the clutches, and was in said clutches, I should say, before the pit stop taken by Velos, could potentially lose that spot. So with the window open, expecting a lot of these leaders to come in the next 5 minutes at the latest. For a lot of these drivers, remember, fuel is time. So far, the quickest pit stops are in the 11-second bracket for those topping off.
And also we have to remind over here that this is no longer the slowest pit stop in F1 tracks, right? In terms of pit speed limiter, because of course, if we have to say the slowest one might be Spa, but we have to say Spa if it is running the 24-hour layout, right? The endurance layout. Because the speed limiter now is up to 80 kilometers to match what the Mercedes cars, the W12 and W13 does. So now it's a very quick runoff. You waste, I think, right about 16 seconds from start to finish on the runoff if you just do it like a normal drive-through. So if you know how to take it well, you can save a lot of time, and that can be a game changer if you train well enough your service.
Greg Doucette quietly has moved his way up to the 8th position in meanwhile spots. Doucette we've seen in the past usually won with the Porsche when it came to this type of racing. Now things have played out. But now he's zipping around, trying to zip around with the Lamborghini. A few drivers, in fact, amongst those swaps that came in during the week, preferring the Lamborghini, such as himself, it appears here. A couple drivers that did request Ferraris for the next round, some switching to Ferraris this round, as we've already seen a couple times.
Yeah, it all goes to the driver's preference, but then again, it's that thing, right? You need to find the right balance, because next track is going to be an interesting one, because we've never seen GT3 cars before as we see the leaders coming into the pits.
All the leaders coming in amongst the top 8, in fact, so the edges of the fuel tank being reached. 11 laps is the furthest they can go. So how long will these drivers go? Terrafino, 12 seconds. Babolano, 11 seconds. That doesn't close the gap, however. In fact, he loses time with a longer pit lane delta. Arexoy, 12 seconds. Michael Kalaga, the first of those yet to take service. Here's an interesting play, though, by card 079. So that took just 10 seconds of gas to try and make it 7 laps.
Interesting strategy. Try to close down a little bit of the gap towards Urexoy, as we see a little bit of the reshuffling of the order. Some people, I think, still have to take a pit stop, but I think the vast majority of the guys into this track already done their service. Justin, looking forward to see what Saad has now up in his hands to try to get closer to Urexoy, even though the gap looks like 4 seconds. 4 seconds with 11 minutes left in the play. It's still enough for you to get closer, maybe get a lap or 2 or a lap or a half in terms of battling.
Speaking of battling, Vela already communicating on the radio a little bit here with the pressure from McKenzie. No send coming from McKenzie in turn. A little bit dicey for a moment. Noah went a bit aggressive to that inside notice in the Forge car.
Yeah, I wonder if there is any time loss. Maybe he lost a 1/10 of a second in comparison to Scherf in front of him as they come out of Woodcut and now into the old or the current for GT3 cars actually start finish line. So it's like minimal gain, minimal losses, but because you're in the draft, you're still within that second gap. Like you said before, Justin, you still kind of make up ground and still be within the toe. And now, apparently, Scherf made a little bit of a fumble around what it looks like to be the Maggots complex and allow the driver to come in and be for a contention spot.
First black flag of the race going to the credit of Waldo Walden. Alden had one of the longer pit stop deltas of the race, last time by 18 seconds total. Plus, he had been bounced into by Wright before that pit window. So either way, Alden will have to spend a fair bit of time in the lane. Finishing up the pit window for just about all the drivers, in fact, all now, is Michael Kalarga. The pit window is complete with about 5 estimated laps to go.
Where see Kalaga comes back, I think I imagine would be right about the tail end of the top 15, but still a solid result. And you've still seen this battle between Vela and Sheriff. Vela may be looking for that dive here, Justin, but he has to be mindful that any time now he makes that mistake, Mackenzie's there to strike as we look towards the bonnet of the Lunatic Moonlight Speed Racing car and see right in front of him what Vela is dealing with front and back.
Little peek to the outside from Vela, having to back out a bit. Mackenzie's still trying to wait for a poke around. Brooklyn's in left field up to Woodcote. With a couple spots potentially up for grabs. Big mistake for Vela though. Will that open up enough of a chance for the Lunatic car for Mackenzie? A little bit of a defensive line, a big defensive line, a major defensive line, no send.
And look how much gap created in just one corner, right? You know, just playing that mental game with the driver, right?
Yeah, you can already tell Vela knew if he left that door open, Mackenzie likely jumps through it, going through cops instead.
Yeah.
Having to set it back up down the Hainer straight.
And even more, I think this was actually a really good example here, Justin. Look how much commitment there was from Sheriff coming into the Maggots complex. You know, just taking a little bit of a softer line, maybe losing the entry a little bit, allowed Vela to come in because he kind of committed very late into the corner, and because of that, you know, kind of closed the gap between the three of them. And Mackenzie tried to follow a little bit too, trying to be more balanced, and because of the draft, everybody kind of like enveloped themselves together, and that's why the gap is somewhat minimal. It's just steady around the 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second between the drivers.
Mackenzie's starting to lose a bit of time to Vela, in fact, through the fourth sector. And it comes into play. You have to think of the right move. And the tough thing is here when you consider this too, it is a bit of a draft train per se. So some of these drivers down the straightaways getting toe off one another. So it really in a lot of cases is down to driver ability, especially in the fixed series. Vela looking to find some ability to grant around the 43. Sheriff leaves the inside open. Vela dives through it. Mackenzie elects to stay behind him.
Good move from Vela right there. You know, the commitment, but it opens up the door here, Justin.
Good crossover coming out through Woodcote. Sheriff trying to get the run again. Vela, and here comes Mackenzie. Mackenzie elects to back out of it, keeps it side by side in turn for the battle for 10th. The crossover yet again. Vela getting the run to the right side, off to Megas and Beckett's.
And look who joins the fray as well. These three battling and losing a little bit of time. Now Kulaga joining the fray. They said, buongiorno, my friends. Can I join with this Ferrari and battle with you guys? And now the number 82 was the last one to go for the pit stops here, Justin. You have a golden opportunity in case of any one of them make a little bit of a fumble or a mistake or something of the nature to allow Kulaga to come in, like I said now.
Oh, a big mistake up the track. Vela taking your 3 wide. Mackenzie up the left side, right side, taking my shirt.
Oh,
now
no.
Descend, near contact twice over. Everyone avoids bumping. Sheriff gets past on the outside by Mackenzie. Michael Kalaga now tries to build up the run through Club. Vela forced up to the right side. Michael Kalaga tries to work it around the left side of the track. Up the Hamilton straight, up to Alley. Coming down to the final few minutes, Kalaga backs it down and backs out of it.
Yeah, that was a smart move. You really don't want to be going side by side through turn number 1. Here comes the dive, Justin. A little bit of a late commitment caught the number 36 off guard, but apparently just staying in front for the time being. But I honestly thought they were all going to die and they failed. But it's good to know that they all kept it up on abreast.
Not over yet, though. Jason Lockridge is joining in. Michael Kalarga showing the nose. Vela slams the door shut right on the nose of the Ferrari. Misses the corner because of it. Vela holds onto the edge of the curve on the right side. Left side taken by Michael Kalarga the long way around through left field. Not going to play out right. Having to regroup in turn because of that, it seems. Jason Lockridge much closer now because of these two scrapping.
Yeah, not far behind. You can even see Hamilton coming closer and closer. So this can become a 4-car scrap with 5 minutes to go around the track. And here comes Kalarga looking on the outside. There is nothing to work with. Maybe on the inside, nothing to work with. Ride the draft in the arrow push through Megan Beckens and Chapel. Maybe who knows? You can find something to work with at the hanger straight going into Stowe.
Black flag, incident points. Jeff Fleischman, the second black flag of the race. Fleischman running 35th. Buck Hamilton getting into issues a bit in the backdrop, near to the bumper yet again. Michael Kalarga shows to the right side. The shade starting to cover across the racetrack to the final sector. Kalarga trying to build up the run on Vela, trying to make it sunshines and rainbows for the spot. Up to the left side, not close enough. Lockridge now within a car length in turn because of all the squabbling once more in the teal and red car. 3 estimated to go.
And look at the gap in the front while we look at the tower screen. Justin, 3/10 separating the leaders. So I think this is now go time for Podium if he really wants to get closer into the gap of the championship points to go on Terrafino. On paper, he has the better car, more torque, more speed, more downforce in comparison to the BMW. But we know Terrafino. Oh no.
That was spun out in the battle amongst the top 15. Take him out of the equation. On the bottom side of the screen, the leaders have now closed up the gap to 4/10, coming at 2 estimated to go in under 3.5 minutes on the clock. So 1 car slides, 1 car with a chance to be able to bump up for a win. Here's a look at what happened to the Forge Racing Team Blue car.
At least held its brakes, and that's a good thing. I just mind the regen a little bit, but waited for what it looks like. Waited for a P15 that was the Lamborghini to go through as we go back into the battle for the lead as we're going to open up 2 to go here, Justin. Fortunate for Vela, but I'm going to be honest with you. I saw that, I think, of 2-3 laps back in overdriving that car. If you overdrive your car so much, all the tires won't give you that grip. As we see now, also Venaro going into P8, and apparently something happened. Morales now fell down to P10 as well.
Morales getting shuffled down. Incident points being reached by the 079. Sad having to serve the black flag right now. Dino Vela also reached the black flag with that slide. Also having to serve one, but already out is Roy Brown. The leaders now look to see if they can avoid the incident limit. There's the pit stop service from the top 5 for the 079 after the aggressive fuel call. Now the leaders separate themselves by 6/10. Can Pabuano try and set this up? He's closed out 4/10 in the past lap alone. The problem's going to be making this move, Lorenzo, in that aero wash you talked about.
Yeah, because the entry, getting a good run on the entry is kind of like a little bit of what we used to cover in the IR18, right? Justin, you get that wash into the entry, and it's kind of hard for you to maintain if you're right on the back bumper. So you can see now defensive lines for Terrafino going into Cobbs, trying to take away any potential closure from Pariano. But it is that thing. Entry is one thing. If you manage to have a little bit of a break in terms of the arrow wash, then you can get closer, and that is what you need to try to find if you're Pariano. Look for those gaps. Look for everything that you can work with, and maybe get closer to 10th or 2 in these sequence of corners, or like key corners, for example, going into Vale and then open up the final line.
Black flag infractions also picked up this lap by Steve Banmer, along with Matt Dinsmore also picking up black flags in that sequence. Brian Hoskins expecting the white flag this time by under 50 seconds on the clock. A chance for the first multi-race winner of the season amongst your frontrunners. Terrafino has that chance for the mark. Compare that to Michael Parabao. He's trying to join that list of winners so far this season. Down the front straightaway, 30 seconds on the clock.
It is looking less likely that Fabiano is actually going to get closer, 9/10 of a second. What Terrafino found on these last two sectors to open up this huge gap and nearly break away from the 101. The 101 have to do the manual labor to get closer. Look at the lines for Fabiano, trying to find everything to try to get closer, but is running out of track and is running out of time as the clock's going to round in about 3 seconds here, Justin.
Clock now reaches 000's final time around from Silverstone. 9/10 separation on the battle down below. It's 9th on back. Rodrigo Morales, we talked about a slip-up. He's lost 4 seconds this lap. Morales under attack by Matt Sheriff. Michael Kalonga is also still there and still behind the tribute car.
Elliott is going to the old start-finish line, and the number 43, which is now retired by the FIA for this season. Looks like that Sheriff has the car, but a little bit of a fumble on the exit going into A3. Might open the door for Kalanga to try to make that overtake into Brooklands here.
Aggression building up indeed for the edges of the top 10 right now. There's that aggression building up amongst the side-by-side. That is Venero and McKenzie. Side-by-side for 7th spot. So McKenzie able to jump up a +10 now in the race, heading to the final sector, heading to the final corners up top. Michael Terrafino about to close it out. He's pulled back the gap to 1.3 seconds. Defensive lines taken by McKenzie. But for Team B, it's been a stellar start to the year for Terrafino, the points leader entering tonight. He becomes the first multi-race winner of the season. It's Terrafino who wins at Silverstone. Fabiano in second, Arexoy crossing the stripe in the 3rd spot. Velo's quietly able to hold on to the top 4 for now. Battles are still on amongst McKenzie and Venero, Morales, Sheriff, Michael Kalonga, and Jason Lutbridge. There's the charge coming for the Ferrari. Venero needs a big send to have a shot. Electing to back up and wait. Looks like McKenzie just about has the spot, unless there's a slip-up off this final corner. No, there isn't. There's the run. There's the 7th for McKenzie.
We like to joke sometimes here, Justin. Off-track is resource whenever you come into the crunch time. So if he has something left that is not going to even a black flag, you should use it, as we see more and more cars coming around the track, as lots of cars finishing their laps, even though we still see a few battles going around the track, as everybody, as we see the Loge, trying to go for P22, but just cannot go on the number 54, and will finish in that point pegging position of P23.
Was it by Matt Dinsmore, who came into the checker flag to serve the penalty? The other cars will come in on their own. Baron Hilton, Gary Weaver amongst those picking up black flags before they reach the checkered. Garanja's disqualified for incident points before this field finishes. And what could have been for the 079 because of the incident point infraction, that finishes 32nd unofficially. What a wild race, Lorenzo. So with that, the last of the drivers have crossed the stripe, as now the grid slots get officialized, and it's now time to see how drivers will finish out tonight's action, again pending race control decisions. Plenty of drivers picking up multiple double-digit incident point infractions, but Michael Terrafino was the driver who led the way just about, in fact, the entire way. 18 of 18 laps led, winning by more than a second. Fabiano, Urexoy, Bellows, and Eric Kalonga the top 5, followed by Greg Doucette, Colin McKenzie, Venero Morales, and Sheriff the top 10. Behind them is Michael Kalonga. He drove the 82 car to an 11th place finish today. Jason Lutbridge in 12th. Hamilton, Luna, Wright, File, Glover, Baron Glover, along with Regan Chandler, Maurice Million, and Dino Vella, rounding out the top 20. Glenn Banco finished in 21st. Johnson, DeRoche, Amaro, along with Rob Campbell, top 25. Greg Macarani finishes in front of Aiden Irvin. Chris Dedio with a quiet run to 28th. Brian Hoskins, after his penalty, finished 29th. Patrick Cargill up 10 spots to 30th. After having to spend more than a minute in the pit box, Soisad finished in 31st today, with Bammer, DeWeese, Fleischmann, Dinsmore amongst the final top 35. Gary Weaver amongst the final drivers having to serve black flags coming to the checkers. Disqualification sees the first car lap down, Nicholas Garanjas. Also with penalties at the end, Baron Hilton, because the black flag, he's now scored 1 lap down. Roy Brown picked up a black flag before he got himself out of the race. 39th, Waldo Walden in 40th. Felix Feliz had an issue in the opening going to the race, had a meatball flag having to repair his car. He finishes 41st, 5 laps down. Same can be said for Miguel Flores, 5 laps down, 42nd. The DNFs, Chandler and Jonathan Diggs tonight. Plenty of drivers eager to talk to us after what was an eventful race in the mid-pack especially. But for the Space Cat, Michael Terrafino, it was a very dominant run, leading every single lap today, dictating the strategy in turn, all the way to the checker flag. Michael Terrafino becomes the first multi-race winner this season in the fixed series for the GT3s. Hey Space Cat, how does it feel to be the first winner to have multiple wins this season?
That feels pretty good, especially that the track was like ice for like the first 4 laps, so it was really hard to keep the car on the track without spinning out.
Yeah, I was about to say, how big was that adjustment period to the new updates that were brought in Monday morning?
For me, it didn't really notice too much, honestly. About the same pace. Car felt the same for me, but I didn't even try any other cars. The BMW was good for me before, so.
Trustworthy BMW in some cases, indeed. Well, in the case of the BMW, it actually was made lighter, if that helps. But so far, tonight's race helping you gain some more points on Alexoi and Matt Sheriff as we head to the midway point of the season. How are you feeling as the points leader now heading to halfway?
Feeling pretty good. I think it's Long Beach is what I'm worried about, because Team Beef is going on a reconnaissance mission to the real-life Daytona, so probably won't have any practice before we get back for that. I think it's Long Beach is after the real-life one, so.
A lot to talk about indeed for that one. That's in round 7. It is the next of the 40-minute races. We'll talk about the reason for the 45-minute rounds coming up in the next 2 in a few moments. Thank you very much for the time, Mike.
Yep, thank you.
Mike Terrafino coming away with the second victory for him this season. Coming away with the second spot tonight, Mike Pavolano, 1.1 seconds back. He's with Lorenzo.
So, Mike, congratulations on that P2, and talk us through about this race, and if you felt with this new BOP any struggles on the Lamborghini, because from what it looks like, the Lamborghini is still strong around this track, but I don't think it is as dominant as it probably would have been on the old BOP.
Yeah, there's definitely an adjustment. I was cramming last night testing other cars, and to be honest, I contemplated in the last minute before I logged into the race to switch cars. So, but I said, you know what, I'll stick with the car and just try to run a clean race and not overcook the tires. So, I guess goal accomplished. Didn't have a mistake, and I'm happy with the second.
Oh, which is always good. And now moving forward from a English track, and now you go into a European, I'll still European, but a French track into Mainikou, and a new track for everybody. Basically, nobody has ever done any officials or any races on that course before. What are your expectations of tackling a new track that has, of course, a lot of pedigree, but is unknown for many of the drivers?
Yeah, I'm actually managing my expectations really low, given the fact that I still haven't bought the track. So I guess right after tonight, I'll be buying the track and doing it for the first time. I don't know if it's a free track or not, but yeah, I haven't driven it, so I'll see how it goes this week. But I think I'll need to put in a lot of seat time. Because as you can see, there's a lot of fast drivers here, so I got to be prepared for that.
Fair enough. And yeah, let me just tell you something, Mike. Unfortunately, it's not a free track. You have to buy it. That's a little bit unfortunate, but it is. Man, it's things that we got to do. We got to do to get a good result in the championship. But regardless, man, enjoy the break, and we'll see you next week. And when we go to the French track.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Once again, that's Michael Babuano coming away in second spot tonight. Third spot went the way of Arexoy. Arexoy now joins us in the broadcast booth. Started off the night well. Indeed, quietly holding on to the third spot. How was it basically on your own for much of the second half?
Yeah, good evening, guys. It was a lonely race for me, but I was battling my own demons in the Audi. So trying to keep up with Pabiano and Terrafino, I put too much into the tires and spent the rest of the race trying to keep the car underneath me.
I was about to ask, when it comes to this car, how was the adjustment period for you? Because we've heard the spectrum so far, or some of the spectrum. First place said minimal. Second place said a lot.
I love it. I think that they must have put the weight in the Audi over the rears because I feel the rear is a lot more planted. I think the car was acting up because I pushed it too hard within the first couple of laps because I was just close enough to Pabiano to where, I can get him, and I just pushed it too hard, and then my tires were a little squidgy, so that's when I had to start backing off and letting them slip away.
Well, Magny-Cours is the next track on the circuit. Your confidence level for one of the newest circuits on the service, the French track, in Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours.
I'm getting there. Put in some pre-work, and there's definitely some work to do, but I feel pretty confident that I'm going to be where we need to be to bring this Audi home, at least in a podium again. Going to keep those podiums coming.
Well, thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
It's Royal Rexoy coming away with the podium finish tonight. What's your top three? And an intriguing race overall. I believe we do have one more driver standing by, and it's the Ford that has shocked the league tonight. Fifth place, he's with Lorenzo.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, so, man, Kulaga, talk us through, man, this race. Up and down for you all throughout the track, and more especially the Ford. Talk about the choice.
I just wanted to jump in to say thank you guys. I appreciate the Ford love. I just want to be entertaining for you guys, give you something to talk about. No, I mean it's a fun car. I feel like I drive it pretty well. So no, it was competitive today. I'm good at Silverstone. This is probably my best track. So that had a lot to do with it today. And I actually topped the timesheets in practice, and they were all like going crazy in my team channel. So that was fun. It was a lot of fun.
All right, that is always good to know. And before I let you go, you go to Spa. What is the mindset for Spa? Because it is not like Silverstone. It's completely different. New track for everyone. Sorry, Magny-Cours. It's completely different than both. Yeah, Magny-Cours. What is the feeling?
I haven't driven Magny-Cours since probably like the old Formula One game in like 2002, 1999. I don't know. It's been forever. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. That's a fun track from what I remember. I got to get some laps on it, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right, that's really good to know, and we'll see you next week with that piece of beauty that you've been driving around the track.
Thank you very much. It'll be out there in all its glory.
Nice.
Thanks, guys.
That is Eric Kalaga coming away with a top 5 in the Ford. And in turn, plenty of impressive runs tonight when it comes to the fixed side of the card, but now it's time to flip said card, because now the biggest challenge for some of these drivers is onto the circuit next, Lorenzo. It's time to shift the gears. It's time to shift things over to the Sprint Series powered by VCO to see how the preparation has been for the top drivers in the series. The build, in turn, meaning plenty of adjustments required, plenty of changes to make sure you're ready to go in terms of the setup side of things. And with this side of the card being on the open side of the setups, anything could happen here tonight. Once again, Justin Prince, Lorenzo Bonner with you, Connery Maddock in the producer's seat as we shuffle over to this side of the card. And this season so far has been a bit of back and forth. Consistency in this series, Lorenzo, has been difficult to fight for in 3 rounds. Tonight, it may be even more difficult to see that with the update yesterday.
Yeah, That update threw a lot of people off, and what is even more funny, this is not a what we normally say. Oh, this is a pre-special event build, you know, and they have new BOP and everything. As we see the point standings with Karl Modov coming out of his win in Spa in P1, and Daniel Krasowski in P2 with a solid result. But it's still out for everybody here to try to catch scores, be closer to one another. This championship is still very open with a lot of drivers, you know, with just some really good pace. So we come into a track that it's a strong one for some of these drivers, and I'm sure that guys into this top 10 they can make a comeback. Like, let's just say in the bottom of the top 5, the top 10 rather.
I was about to say, the drivers 4th and 5th, White and Pelchat, they've had either a DNF or a DNS so far on the schedule, and they're still top 5. So you have to keep into account what round ends up being the draw. But Modov and Krasowski indeed have been the most consistent of those battling for it. Raven Yip, for example, coming off his best round, for example, though, in that 7th spot. Keep that in mind. And that's just amongst your pro drivers. Remember tonight, when it comes to sprint competition, there's also the AM class. Blake Ziti, we mentioned he was baking some Zitis the last time we've seen him. He's got 26 points. Remember, in this series, it's based on the overall positioning on if you score said points. 12 drivers out of the 17 AM drivers have scored points. Some have not even broken into double digits yet, such as Brett Thurman, Christopher Rhines, as well as drivers like Darren Rutherford, who had 0 points in 2 of the rounds.
Yeah, you can see Ziti basically getting a double 13 points on the last 2 tracks, both in Monza and also Spa. So trying to ride the good waves into the English track and open up the gap that he has for Turner Schroe and Nathan Deering off those 10 points he has in the AM standings.
When it comes to Delta Sport, we've seen them have the top driver when it comes to the pro standings. Keep in mind, they lead the team standings entry today. Both the Precision Racing Esports entries also consistent when it comes to the pro and their AM drivers. But also amongst these respective drivers seen in some of the AM contenders to talk about as qualifying gets itself situated here today. SimCity Racing also doing well amongst the fighting. But that's a look at your point standings for the AM side of the standings. It's time to shift over to qualifying. Remember, open setups, 50% the fuel limit, 40 minutes the distance. This, in turn, put the streak of 4 straight 40-minute races to start the season. We talked a little bit about this, alluding to it at the interview portion of the fixed races. 45 minutes for the next 2 rounds after this, Lorenzo. So in other words, starting to get to the nitty and the gritty for this middle portion of the season for this side.
Yeah, it's gonna get interesting, those 5 minutes, what it's gonna do in terms of strategy. As we see maybe one of the Delta Sport cars that might have been, yeah, I was gonna say Modov, having a mistake into turn number 3 specifically, and the rear just lost completely. I don't know if he touched the grass though, but yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. How this new dynamic of going from 40 to 45 minutes will add in terms of who goes into the pit lane, how far or how early you really want to stay with your car, and try to maybe get a cut on the time with the other drivers. As we look on the replay here, Justin.
See just how far he went off there. Here is another look at it specifically. Modov so far in the session, 3rd in qualifying after just 1 lap turned out of the 4. Broke loose maybe under braking?
No. That is... it pains me to say I feel Modov's pain right here. It's just that because it is a high-speed corner and you already put a lot of stress into your left-hand side tires going to turn number 1, and then you stress out the right going to turn number 2, and you have to quickly set up, if you go too wide into turn number 2, to have as wide entry as you can go into turn number 3. The rear, it just takes too much stress out of the rear of the car, so that's why the car snapped so much. It wasn't even in braking, it was actually just on the transition, and the rear just completely gave out, and the arrow was just enough to keep the car on track.
Enough having to regroup as a result of that situation. Elliott White, the top driver so far amongst the pro drivers, keep in mind though. Elliott White driver with experience in eNASCAR's college iRacing series. For the past couple semesters, again, really making a name for himself, the youngster. Now it's the matter, can he keep up the stellar start? Remember, 4th in the points despite the DNF last round.
And he had a strong start at Spa. It's just unfortunate mistakes in the early portions of the race that put Elliott on the back foot, and it was a little bit unfortunate to see him getting the DNF, but still being 4th place in a wide contested championship like this. And we're going to halfway through next round, so it's good to see that the consistency that Elliott has is something noticeable and noteworthy moving forward as he goes through through Cops.
Continue to go amongst this qualifying session down to the final 2 minutes here. And it's going to be intriguing in turn how some of the adjustments play out. With the BOP adjustments that are referred to, as mentioned, some of them have had minor. In the case of the Lamborghini, there was adjustments even to its damage model, for example, the new damage model. Some of them have had engine torque adjustments. Some of them are heavier. Some of them are lighter now.
Yeah, and I think in terms of damage model, I think you've seen enough for 1 week, haven't you, Justin?
I mean, yeah. I know what you're referencing. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
If we see that again, I'll be surprised. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think you and I together, we're going to be surprised. I still have to understand how that actually happened. But
Physics.
Regardless, physics.
James Walker is up to 8th rather in the pro class. Walker just put in his first counting time moments ago. Walker at the edge of the top 10, keep in mind. And while he's not running for the team points per se, TDR, one of those teams who likes to drive just about everything. We've seen them in eNASCAR competition. Riley Thompson comes to mind with our team in the past. They have some short track aces these days. And of course, you have the roadside with Walker.
Yeah, and also done competitions with open wheels as well, Justin. So they have a pedigree of drivers that are very fast and committed towards racing itself. Let's see what Walker does over here, because it looks like it's going to be close to his best time. I don't know if it's going to be an improvement, but it's going to be really, really close.
Coming across the stripe, 158.353. That does not bump his personal best. Most drivers completed their lap times with 15 seconds on the clock. Very unlikely the 22 car on screen will make it in turn. A couple drivers, it is important to mention, managed to get disqualified. Amongst this qualifying session, Floyd Kerr, Greg Conaway, both parked during the opening portions of the session tonight. So in turn, the qualifying comes to a close with 48 drivers entered. Look to see how many are ready to go for Silverstone. It's time to look at how we'll start tonight's action. We'll see where the speed flies around once we head to the Hamilton Straight. After some shuffles at the top of the board tonight, how about a 0.6 of a second advantage for SimCity Racing Sean Dickinson? What did I say about that team? How about them on the pole? Elliott White and Marty Chris the top 3, Danik Krasowski in 4th, Raymond Yip and Gonzalo Cortez the top privateer in 6th. Connor Wagner starts behind this grouping in the 7th position today in car 51, starting a flurry of red cars. Also joining them is James C. Walker, Carl Modov, with Dominic Olivier mixing things up with the blue car. Zach Kerr amongst those drivers looking to charge forward amongst that edge of the top 12. Matthew Thunhorst, one of the drivers who have worked with Forge Racing in the past on short tracks, fine road course racing this season. Amongst the other drivers to keep an eye on this grouping, Ryan Punchdale, Diego Morales amongst that top 18, looking to be fast. One driver just outside that grouping to watch for is not just Alex Caruso with the speed for Race Factory Blue, but the AM drivers' top times also being put up by Nathan Deering, those drivers in the pink. Jennifer McDonald, Nathan Bartley, along with Boris Egno Ovando and Nick McLaughlin, the top 24. Behind them on the line today, Miguel Egno Fonseca, along with Jeremy Gonzalez, Ted Lowendick, looking to see how Team Tedline can do Ted things. Turner Schroll. Third in AM class today, Thomas Dunn and David Mendonca. Take a look through the rest of the field. Blake Zeedy, the points leader for the AM class today, starting 32nd alongside downtown Gary Brown. Once those also towards the back of the AM class is David Lemon, all the way back in 36th. Amongst those starting towards the tail of the field to keep an eye on Sean McGinnis, expecting some decent things out of him. Also expecting several of these AM drivers like Brett Thurman to see if they can claw their way up. And as talked about, a few drivers like Floyd Kerr and Greg Conaway starting at the back after DQs in qualifying. Pierre Admin made that as J.R. Williams tonight, as he was entered under the same registration yesterday. On that note, keys to victory tonight, Lorenzo, if you're in sprint class action.
It's going to be an interesting one. I really want to see how top 6 is going to behave in the first few laps. So if you are in the middle of the pack, is just like I said before, move up as quickly as possible and don't overheat the tires.
John Dickinson waited a little bit longer this time to set up for the green. We're underway at Silverstone for the Sprint Series. Oh, and a little more squirrely on the start this time on the later launch. Side-by-side already with Raymond Yip in the backdrop. With Connor Wagner, the rest of the top 5 single file the start. They make their way to the first sector, heading off the village for the first hard braking zone of the race. Wagner tries to close up to the back end of them, but all of this as well. It's been a decent start for Dickinson in white. Now a bit of a charge to the outside by one of the PRL sports cars.
I just cannot get the run. It opens up the door a little bit for the Porsche, a little bit behind. But I think that looked like to be Dom Olivier trying to make that move in Kerr, trying to capitalize on the overdrive out of Olivier coming out of Aintree, and but everybody followed one abreast in this massive file of cars we have around the track.
Talked about this during the fixed race, but to mention this once more, drivers for both the fixed and sprint series with the BOP adjustment and a free car change. Dominic Olivier, who started with the Mercedes AMG this season, now switched to the Ferrari. His Ferrari has already moved up to the top 8 with that pass down off towards the third sector through Collins.
And there's a little bit of separation already between Yip and Olivier, so I think Olivier driving with a sense of urgency to try to close down the gap on Olivier, and we have problems.
And it's one of the SimCity cars, that's Martin Crisp. Crisp yet again has the bad luck bugaboo. Give him a little bite. That's happened several times this season. He's got great pace whenever he's on the track, but then sometimes I've seen in a couple rounds this.
The traditional too much steering input into one corner.
That's something sometimes people forget about, right? You're turning, trying to get the car to go. And sometimes that makes it not turn. Or better yet, kills the tires.
Yeah, you can definitely see the tires had a little bit of a giving up around the corner, and Martin just kind of had to go straight a little bit. Lose a little bit of time, lose some time, cut the track, and come back as we see battle between not same class, but it's worth for points.
Say Nathan Bartley trying to cross things up with Nathan Deering. See Deering running with a VR headset tonight, and I believe, what is that? I think that's a Funko Pop bobblehead.
It is a Funko Pop bobblehead of Jeff Gordon, I think.
And I think that's on top of the direct drive to cause it to bobble, maybe?
If it is, that is a very swag move, which I do approve.
See the communications over the radio already to make sure things with his teammates after the solid start for him. Right now, next nearest competitor in the class, keep in mind with the qualifying run, Caruso has already dropped to 23rd.
I wonder if you try to pull that from the Sean Campbell loss of chairs in the office book.
Sorry, the loss of chairs in what?
The Sean Campbell. Lots of chairs in the office.
Hey, you never have enough chairs, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Anyhow, up at the front, the Similar to what we've seen in the fixed race, the top two are starting to check out. This time, it's Grzelski losing touch to Elliott White. Right now, just 1.1 seconds back for now. And as we talked about, Lorenzo, one side by side, and that can balloon it fast. This time by, they lost a couple 100s to leaders.
Yeah, but even then, they lost a little bit of touch. They have at least more leeway or more capabilities of being able to catch up towards the leaders. Because if I remember correctly, by lap number 3 or 4, the gap between P2 Fabiano and P3 Rexoy was basically about 2 to 3 seconds. In here is a little bit, is much less than that. It's by half a 1/0 of a second, 1.5 seconds less. So it's still more manageable. As Grzelski's still within the second gap, but it's slipping away a little bit by bit. And I wonder if Cortez is gonna open up the toolbox to strike if they actually go over the second gap and that draft is broken away.
I mean, we've seen it in the last race, especially when you're in the midst of a drafting train such as this, how important it is to time it up just right. You don't complete the move, you end up losing a ton of time. While there's that fuel-saving beneficiary we talked about, Lorenzo, too, in some cases it's important to make sure you're amongst those leaders, absolutely, to be able to take advantage of a fuel save in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and in races like this, I think it's more even vital that you are looking after that field. For example, Connor Wagner, I think, might be one of those drivers who might be overlooking that field, as we see the number 2 around the track trying to defend positions coming into the hangar straight, and that is gonna be tricky defending Lamborghini action. Fonseca has the job here done.
That colorful machine to the right side of the racetrack, backing up a little bit. Agno Ovando last race he ran a PRL competition. Not the funnest of times in his blue machine. Able to hold on for the time being, though, in the midst of the hornet's nest. You see amongst the divisions in the classes, Steering Caruso in the overall position balance are 12, 15 seconds back in the overall leader, but about 2 to 3 seconds back from each other. There's a look at some of the side-by-side, for example, that is not so much helping in a couple cases like this.
Oh, not at all. Connor Wagner, I guess, moved on Cortez, and I think the question was kind of like answered between both of them now. Cortez will open the toolbox. Here he goes, dive down on the inside of Wagner, blocked up early by the Delta Sport driver.
I can remember, made his namesake with Delta Sports banner in the open wheel side of PRL competition. Now over to the sports car side platform the past couple seasons. On board with Cortez. Things are lining up. That battle has lost some touch for now. Grzelski having to be smart with this. Cortez having to back it off. No side-by-side for Cops.
And you hear Cortez here, Justin. What do you do? I know you lost the position. You already lost the tilt to P3. They're running similar laps, of course, but you have the golden opportunity to maybe try to save a lap of fuel here. And we've seen they pit after a lot of 12 laps of the gauge from what it looks like. Of course, they have a little bit more fuel. They have about 50% fuel, so it does make a little bit of a service. But here he goes, dive down on the inside. No. So I think if I'm me, I don't know if you're different, I would save fuel over here and try to make a different strategy than maybe Connor is doing.
Back to line. Stationary for the time being, up for club to the final corner for the Hamilton straight. So far, a very clean race. Only Floyd Kerr and Cedric Nephew with trouble so far with toes. The rest of the field have done themselves really well. Who hasn't done well? Carl Modoff. If you may have noticed, he's at the back. He just lost several spots. He's running in 44.
Yikes.
Remember, he started this race in 9th, has gotten into a couple of bumping and banging scenarios already this race. It's not been a good run. You can see just the frustration from the veteran.
Yeah, and you can definitely see that he's not satisfied one bit by the behavior of the other drivers or their ability or their prowess to defend the position, and you can see the frustration. You can see the full body read of Modov, and knowing that his championship hopes might be slipping away a little bit, you know, lap by lap, as he has to do something to recover as maximum points he can actually recover early on.
It's important to note he started this race from the pit lane. He missed the gridding procedure. Hence why he lost a lot of the track position. That is a massive amount of time to lose, though, by missing that grid. Instead of starting in 9th, being in, which would put him around 6 seconds behind the leader, he right now is 29 seconds back of the point. It has to be emotionally crushing a bit, isn't it?
It is. It is. It is also mentally taxing as well, because you're coming from the back and you know your patience. You already lost your patience a little bit because you're losing time comparison to the other ones. You're losing relatively 30 seconds, give or take, and you see other drivers around the track that is slower than you on pace, just doing their lines, you know, and you're losing. For example, like what happened over here, 2 cops tried to make the overtake, just couldn't do it. Now he does the overtake, but at what cost? How many times does he has lost? Does he lost comparatively to the leaders with the set of overtakes being done, you know?
Back up to the front. The leader's now up for the next car by nearly 2 seconds. And so far, it's been Sean Dickinson controlling the tempo, similar to what we've seen as we talked about from the last run. But it has to be a big run when it comes to Dickinson so far. He is 16th in the points coming into tonight. He picked up his first top 5 of the season last round. This is where we've seen in times things start to make a swing, and if you can swing forward from this point, you might have a shot. Albeit he has a 10-point round to start, that might be the big hurdle for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and he also has a DNF in Monza, so the DNF
might gone.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, drop down the Cyberpunk car.
Oh no, not the Cyberpunk car.
The Sim Racing Alley Endurance Team car having some problems. Let's take a look at what happened to the car that represents a game that exists still, I believe, somehow. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it just drove into the back of Ovando, caught by surprise, I think, with how slow on the apex, or into the transition of the first to second leg of the apex was for that Lamborghini, and the number 11 Lamborghini. But I'll still say Cyberpunk is a good game. Still a good game,
now.
man. Yeah, I was gonna say now it is, but we're not here to talk about Cyberpunk. I just wanted to make this statement.
Well, to say the modding scene's picked up on that side, but that's regardless of the point.
Yeah.
What is important amongst these drivers settling things together here? Who's going to be able to settle themselves amongst these competitors tonight with how things are going? Right now, Deering's having a perfect race so far. Not too much shuffling, surprisingly, though I noticed in the AM class. In fact, some of those drivers are still swamped with cars. Others, like Ryan Puchtel, they're swamped in the heart of the field by plenty of other cars right now around them, such as Spears, Crisp, and Bartley.
Yeah, but the one thing I really want to bring up here, look where ZD is in comparison to Deering, right? Like I said, 10 points. This difference is enough. I just need to verify where Deering is relatively on the track, as we see now ZD struggling with that Ferrari a little bit, but not far behind from Mendoza and also Schro as well. So still potential of maybe clawing 2, maybe 3 spots depending on how Brown is doing in his race, but things are not looking good for the AM standings leader, as his direct rival, one of his direct rivals, is at the top of the scoring.
And here's the problem. Remember, the overall point structure, essentially you need to be top 20 or so, right?
Yep.
ZD's not in a spot to score points, so you can't really score points if you're running in place like this.
Yeah, which is a massive yikes, and we have to remember as well that I think is one of the facts that he actually got into the top 20 in Spa is the fact that we had basically a recap of a Games of Thrones episode at Spa-Francorchamps. So that was the unfortunate thing. A lot of the cars unfortunately had damage at the very first lap of the race, and it was one of the few ones that actually made it out unscathed, as we see the 62 coming to the pit stop. So what happened to Nick McLaughlin here? Just making an early pit stop than everybody else? Different strategies?
Yeah, McLaughlin looks a little bit down right now. He was down in the pylon in the 20s. Zach also is coming in this time. So it is scheduled just 10.7 seconds for McLaughlin, just looking like he may be trying something different. Find some space to work with.
It basically comes back to that discussion we had early in the fixed race, you know, maybe being in the traffic way too much and being kind of like locked out a little bit, moving from trying to move from spot to spot. It wouldn't be a bad idea to get that the undercut and see if that is actually going to work well enough for you, as long as you get a lot of fights and you keep up with people that actually have some relatively good pacing in comparison to the ones that were up in the field, as we see now Connor moving up into Krzyzewski. So the number 37, good number by the way, is in a little bit of an issue. But I was going to say Connor, but no, that's James Walker and Zach Kerr.
Zach Kerr quietly doing well in this race so far, up 2 as well tonight. Kerr picking up a good amount of draft, though no major help for Walker to work off of. Leaves him up for grabs. There goes the Porsche. One of the few Porsches, in fact, towards the front half of the field tonight, not able to make it stick.
Yeah, remember the better Porsche is actually Connor in P4, which relatively got a really big buff in this Neo BOP. So it's actually acting very closely to what the Audis and Lamborghinis were actually doing around the track. So it's a car that now can fight.
You're right on that mark. We'll keep an eye on how things play out in terms of these different competitors with these different adjustment factors, right? The Audi so far doing pretty well amongst your competitors. There's an Audi in front of them. There's a Ferrari, then it's Lambo, Porsche in front, Lamborghini, Audi, and then Lamborghini. Lamborghini and Audi are a frequent number of those. Top 10 cars. Kerr on board, no good. Just hear some of that slow roll for Kerr in the midst of that arrow you mentioned, Lorenzo, in the first part of the show.
Yeah, and but it's still not breaking too much out of it, too. I think he lost relatively maybe 150 hundredths of a second. So in comparison to what Walker did, it's kind of like the different lines you can take upon Brooklands and Luffield, especially in Luffield. It's kind of like two ways. One, you can be tied into the corner and launch yourself as fast as you can to the outside, and the one you can take the Walker line, just commit into the apex, open up a little bit, and then commit into the apex again, and then open up on the exit, and still gonna be very fast. So you can see the difference of lines. Now, I really want to see here, Stowe, how do they navigate through it?
We're trying to find a little bit of a tighter line. Helps him with the corner exit. You heard it a little bit there. He is majorly fuel saving despite all this. Big lift, big hit of the clutch there.
Yeah, fuel here matters a lot, and since they go into rule sets that are very close to the official series, so they kind of have an idea in the back of their minds of how they should operate the car on a short. It's a stint, but it's a very short stint in comparison to what would be an endurance stint of 1 hour. So they can make the slight adjustments and hit the fuel numbers whenever they come to the pit lane and be safe with it, pushing the car towards the end.
Of note, Diego Morales coming in that past time by took a 12-second pit stop, the longest out of the 3 mid to higher pack runners so far today. An issue just happened as well for Matthew Thunhorst. He's in the middle of the grass in sector 1. Matthew Thunhorst, he was doing well. Then the battle for 13th involving Nathan Bartley got a little bit pushy, shovey, fist-to-fighty.
Yeah, two don't make one here, Justin.
Yep, bumped into the grass. And keep it out of the racing line, drives it all the way to the grass, lost them a fair bit of time. Result of that contact going from just outside the top 10 in the points to not so much.
Yeah, not the brightest moment for the driver right there, but still a long race to go. Still time to maybe catch up into the top 20. So I'm really wondering how late the leaders, like for example Dickinson, White, and Krasowski, and we saw Krasowski on the frame not too long ago getting pressured by Wagner. On the stint will be going, you know, maybe 10 minutes left, 12 minutes left. How long that fuel will take him until the end, until their pit stop.
And interesting to consider, by the way, with the openness of the setup formation for tonight's action, the pace in itself, Lorenzo, about 1 to 3 seconds quicker a lap compared to the fixed setup. So a lot of these teams finding those optimizations with the setups over the course of a very quick turnaround lunch. Especially since a lot of the members hosted various sessions to make sure they were ready for this race tonight. Yeah.
Not only that, and running the official series we had last week, because now we had to turn around and we went into Daytona. So, you know, having that preparation and having that mindset goal of, all right, we have the groundwork done and we know what we need to do, but now just making the fine adjustments with the new setups and new adjustments into the car. So it's just finding that right balance once again, and then pick up right after they done with Magny-Cours. So it's those things that you need to be prepared for any oddballs that you're thrown if you really want to be good, like these guys are. So good to see that the fixed setup gives you a good baseline of what you are running, despite having usually more wing and more rake in the car in comparison to the setups that these guys do, which are much more aggressive in general at the tracks in iRacing for open setups.
Like they're still trying to figure a way forward with Grzelski. Being focused on the fuel save in the line. Cortez still in this trailing of a line. Olivier, interesting enough, has been the fastest of the four the past couple laps, though. Remember, we talked about some who may have the strategy of push to be able to have a chance on the under fuel. Guy is in that position to do so, waiting behind all this.
Wondering how much fuel he's saving behind Cortez, though, because from what it looks like, the gap is distant enough for him to not actually be within the draft, as now Krasowski, from what it looks like, will have to fend off Wagner. And but obviously, and I mean, obviously Wagner is not gonna strike now. I think he's gonna strike maybe at the in lap rather than waste his time and see that gap that he has about 5 seconds to Dickinson to vanish in a blink of an eye.
You have seen, or if you blink, may not have seen, Blake Ziti, Sean Carmody have both came in for scheduled pit stops from the M class. Of note, Ziti had a longer stop compared to his teammates, so Carmody will lead those two off the line. So those drivers in the 40s for the time being. The first driver in pit stop sequences to complete them so far is Morales in 30th. So just past the halfway mark, we are now about that time where pit stops should be expected. Remember, about the 40% or so limit in the last race, this was around the max count, around 11 or 12 laps. With the 50%, that pushes that window up a few more laps as to be expected. So now it's the critical part of making sure you've got the numbers. Looks like Wagner's got the numbers he wants to see with all the saving. He elects to go and make the pass now.
Solid move. I thought actually that Olivier was coming into the pits from what the car language looked like, but just staying in the track, still trying to keep within the toe of Cortez, and now the Delta Sport driver looks like with a good ticket to go away and maybe stay within that 5-second gap to Dickinson, and maybe dream with something as they open up with the lap 50 next to 16 minutes to go, and I think the stint goes about 15 to 16 laps roughly with this 50% gauge, if I recall correctly. Maybe even less than that. Is right around. I know 15 is kind of like the high number, I think.
Mid-pack number right now is reaching 12 laps. And trouble Ted Lowendick, car 23. Leader still fighting, and the Tedline car will need a little bit more bubbly. Match that car sponsor as they cut across the grass in the track.
And surely
some bubble. This is a Y.
Yeah, just was a little bit shaken, at least not stirred, and in a dangerous spot. Ted did the right. This is the thing. He did the right thing. This is where he can actually reverse and go back into the track. So that was a smart move from Ted, even though usually his sponsor is very bittersweet. Now that thing became a little bit sour, I gotta say.
Yeah, to say the least, that is not what the doctor ordered. Here's a look at Nicholas Larson. See what happened the last time Bartley made a move in the midst of a battle for position. What will happen with this Pharaoh? Coming at 8 estimated laps to go. Not close enough for the Sen yet as Bartley with the blue chip car. Keeping up in front for now. Of note, Cortez, Olivier coming in this time by. Will any of these drivers in this line come in? Couple doing the backdrop, such as Noah Anderson, but most of the drivers stay up for another lap.
Well, that gives us a good indicator that the leader should be coming up on the next lap, as they probably been more aggressive in terms of fuel saving, as we still see this battle between Bartley and I think this is the move. Here goes Bartley on the inside from what it looks like.
Bartley has some space. Bartley takes advantage of the space. So Bartley up 14 spots already. Up to 8th position. 3 seconds back in the next group.
I just saw at the screen, of course, he still has a bit of a mode up now from what it looks like into P13 in the pro class. So moving up a little bit, the Delta Sport driver after making the mistake of not starting the car in the grid.
The important note to keep in mind in case Moto gets to pit.
Yeah, keyword here.
A lot of the drivers making their way off to the final sectors, down to the final 13 minutes or so. We are now in the major portions of the window. Who comes in this time? Who makes it next time by? To around the 11 to 10 minute to go mark. Right now, White closing the gap a little bit this lap. He's picked up 2/10 so far. Dickinson, will he bobble to the right? He's showing it. He's coming. Elliott White joins him. White much deeper on the brakes, nearly rams in the back end of him, but gets in the speed limit.
And Wagner is staying for one more.
Connor Wagner, the only driver in the top 5 to stay out so far. Radzowski, yep, Walker and Kirby in behind him. White all over the back bumper. Just about speeding, just about bobbing over the limiter. James Walker picked up a speeding penalty on his entry. He'll have to stay in the box instead.
Oof. What was a really promising race just down in flames.
And out comes Dickinson with the lead. White took a little less fuel, 4/10 quicker in the box. But in the end, it's Dickinson who holds on for now to the net race lead, with Wagner and Punchtel the only drivers yet to pit in front of them.
And I'm going to be very honest with you here, Justin. This might be a outstanding move from Wagner if he actually pulls off of the pit lane and does what I think has in mindset of doing. As you see, the cluster pit lane, everybody getting it out, and the lonely car of Walker just idly sitting still over there, pondering upon his mistakes.
Jeff Gore also picking up a black flag. He's had a couple spins today, having to come in with his Ford M-Class car. So, these two grouped together within a second once more. Bundled up together, White has been running behind Dickinson just about this entire race. Wagner's on his own with a 19-second advantage before the pit stop window. 5 seconds up right now, these two are, compared to Grzelski, and another 2 seconds back as Jeremy Gonzalez yet to pit, Yip, and Olivier. So now it's the big question, where will Wagner come into play? There's the snake amongst the current net leaders. Wagner is now into the pit lane. Where will Connor Wagner for Delta Sport cycle compared to these two?
I didn't like this movement from Dickinson, even though I understand what he's trying to do, because you're losing like marginal time, and that marginal time might be enough for Connor to actually get that jump, because that pit stop is going to be quick.
7 seconds in the box, up to 9 seconds. Wagner, keep an eye on that clock and the top pan of the screen. 1 second quicker on the fuel load. Wagner does not hold on in front of them though. Wagner in fact comes out a fair bit back of Dickinson and White. So Dickinson, White, and Wagner now the top three.
But that's good. 3 seconds. 3 seconds for you is a lifetime. So it's like a certain movie once said. But you can work with, because now I think Elliott is going to be a little bit more aggressive out of the gates. Maybe in the first 2-3 laps, if he can actually get closer and try to find something to battle against Dickinson. You can already see Dickinson being a little bit more defensive in terms of car behavior in comparison to the number 27, and that might open the door for Wagner. Maybe close down half a second per lap, 4/10 of a second per lap, get within the drafting range of Elliott White, and then reignite some fun three-way action for the podium.
Under 9 minutes to go on the clock. One more speeding penalty to close out the window, by the way, to report. Jeremy Gonzalez had to spend 51 seconds in the box. Salvez was running decently in the mid-pack with the pit stops. So with about 5 estimated to go this time around, Wagner is 3.2 seconds behind these two. Some of the other battles are starting to get a little bit heated. Martin Crisp on the recovery drive from some mistakes earlier from the top three, able to find his way up to Nicholas Larson's group. He's already jumped by Puchtel, and as well as Noah Anderson. Crisp, remember, dropped as low as 18th after he went into the grass. As we said before, Renzo, that's been the defending part of the season, mistakes.
Yeah, and a driver of Martin, usually driving top splits and all, have that experience. Fortunate to see him making those fumbles, and it's been costly. You know, you have to be consistent, even though you don't need to get great results here. But being consistent, you know, building up that confidence, you need everything that you can get, and making mistake after mistake, it must be annoying for that 957 car to try to, you know, get motivation and say, oh, I can still do this, as he's probably going to make the dive on the inside.
Showing the nose, can't make it stick fully to the inside though, so the nose having to back off a little bit. Well, side by side, Puchtel missing a bit of the line. Noah Anderson takes advantage, coming out of the loop off to entry. Puchtel, a long-time driver in this series, with that very memorable orange splattered 21 car. Can run an M-Class a few times, do well in the M-Class, doing pretty well today in this season mid-pack.
Now I'm wondering if that race spot sticker was actually meant to be, you know, intentional, so you can actually catch up people 5/10 a second per lap, because usually the race spot sticker on the car gives you about 2/10 of a second per lap less, right? So that might be the big brain move from the number 21 there.
Someday somebody's going to test that theory by making a car with, I don't know, 2,500 tiny little RaceSpot logos to see if that works.
And I would 100% believe you on that. And I think I know the individual who actually might make that theory prove true.
Still keeping an eye on how things play out up towards the front. Dominic Olivier driving really well today in the top 5. He started off the season nightmarish, as we've talked about. He got disqualified to open the season, Renzo. DNS last round, so he's way behind the 8 ball by at least a race. But it's been up and down. Good race one, good week of races one week, bad stretch of races the next, then wishy-washy.
Has been wishy-washy for Dom, but we know Dom is a very good driver. He has the skills, knows how to drive the car, had a solid result into the Monza round. The disqualification, I think, bit him in the rear a little bit, and the not starting in Spa was a little bit worse. As we see, I think, Ovando in the box. Let's see what happened to the blue Lamborghini.
Looks like he came in the pits. He had a black flag coming into that. If he didn't have the black flag before, he still has to serve regardless. Romain Farfaux also had a black flag to serve.
And from what it looks like, was basically speeding in the pit lane, and because that car looked way too quick from what it looked like.
I mean, it'd be the tightest margin of a black flag at the cone, because at the cone he was at 53.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that would be a very tight margin. Usually at some tracks, it's by the sector in the opening going on the average. That's usually an oval policy. Not so much on the road at the yellow cone. It's much more strict on road courses. Up to the grass goes car 21 Punchtel.
And Punchtel is still trying to follow through. A little bit of a breakaway from what it looks like between him and Martin Crisp already, and losing the draft, and that is opening up the room for Anderson to try to come and maybe contest a position for that against that Audi, sorry, the Porsche. So let's see what the number 21, like we said before, with that massive RaceSpot logo in the front, has in store to try to defend his position with 3 minutes and 4:35 to go in this race.
Down to the final 2 estimated laps or so of this race. That's how quickly these drivers have been zipping around the racetrack. If anything, it might be a little bit tight on the timing for if we get an extra lap or not. Elliott White's not been able to close the bubble. The closest he's been is about right now, half a second. Wagner has chipped away about a second on the time, but not within drafting range yet either. So now, what can Elliott White do if he wants to try and rip away this race from Dickinson?
Good question. I think he needs to find maybe a more aggressive line to try to overcommit the car, overdrive the car a little bit to try to go for that extra grip. But because, like I said, the grip that you have left in the car, you still have some grip left. You haven't wasted everything, but constant grip for 2 laps is going to be tricky, as he's probably going to go through the line with 2 minutes to go over here. So we're going to get maybe 2 more laps here, Justin. So that gap that Wagner has, 2 seconds to both Dickinson and White relatively. We can see a 3-way battle for the at the last lap, because you can now see Elliott is committing.
He has to commit, he has to try and make a send. We might get an extra lap here. About 2:10 on the clock. It's about 1:57 on the average of the lap times. No indication from Barney the flagman, it appears. It looks like we may get another lap here. So 2 more chances now for Elliott White, getting that by about 10 seconds. What do you say? 1 second lap difference can be really big in terms of how many laps you can get.
Yeah, like a last hurrah for Elliott, trying to get strong on the exit out of the loop going into entry, open up the Wellington straight. Half a second separates here, Justin. I'm honest, I don't think he has the run. The car, might have the car, might have the setup, but I think it needs something extra, and Dickinson is making no failures whatsoever. He's giving no openings whatsoever to explore. So it's gonna be like we say, you're gonna have to pull this one out of the bag with your own arms and feet.
Coming up to the final minute or so on the clock, it's down to these two for the overall race win. The amateur class has been separated by 5 seconds just about the entire day. Nathan Deering has held the top spot in AM all day, but in 19th, very likely minimal points. In fact, it's going to be a lucky situation for anyone but him to score points in the M class today. But for Dickinson, need to hold on for another about lap and a quarter to go. The Las Vegas, Nevada-based organization looking to see if they can break through here today to celebrate the new year after such bad luck streaks for their fast cars. Coming up to the white flag this time by. Final 10 seconds coming up on the clock. Elliott White half a second back, looking to recharge, needing a big chance to build up the run. Final time around from Silverstone.
And you can see Dickinson being strung out of the corners here, Justin. So Elliott committing on the entry, being fast in, slow out. Dickinson, however, trying to be a little bit of a slow out, maybe fast in, slow in, fast out. So that is what actually is helping the SimCity racing driver to become quicker and quicker. And Wagner doing his best, trying to really do his best to get closer into the drafting range, but 1.4 behind Elliott. I don't think he has more than that gap itself to work with, and P3 is basically within reality now for Connor. P2, I don't think so.
By the way, that car stopped on the side. Jeff Corral was letting cars go. No issues outside of that for the Ford. But on this final lap, White has one more chance down the Hainer straight to try and set it up. It's down to 4/10 the gap. Will Elliott White try and slant it forward, or will he settle for the points? Looking to gain some time down to 3/10, making his way up to Magus and Beckett's for the final time around.
Gap at its closest here, Justin. We can see something.
He's trying to flame it. He's trying to send it. There's the push. Keeps it on the grass. Elliott White needs to gain 4/10 down this straight. They snake their way down the Hainer straight. Connor Wagner watches behind, 2 seconds back. Elliott White, one more chance to flame it to the inside. Will he choose to do so out of Vale? No, he doesn't. Dickinson plays the defense well. Sean Dickinson leads all but one lap. After what's been a rocky start for SimCity Racing, they find consistency with Sean Dickinson making his way to victory lane here at Silverstone. White and Wagner rounding out the Pro Class podium. And a good recovery drive for the counterpart and the team principal, Martin Crisp. Or it was until now. Crisp losing fuel.
No.
He's out of fuel and out of the points.
As it couldn't be worse.
It's been the antithesis of the season for Martin Crisp, even though he's third in the point standings, Lorenzo. It's been tough for the consistency mark when he's had the track position. The rest of the drivers crossing the strike. Nathan Deering has the top spot in Pro-Am, finishes 18th in the race. Race Factory blue car. Get a chance to celebrate. In fact, he is the only AM driver that appears in the top 20.
Yeah.
And another car's out of gas. That's David Lamont in 5th spot. One of the privateers. Just gets there in time. Caruso's trying to get there too, but won't. And he's out of fuel.
And you can, I think you just saw one of the cars, Ziti and now Gonçalves coming in. Maybe black flag for Gonçalves. Or taking the Michael Schumacher route of going to the pit lane and last lap try to do something as all the cars, or the majority of the cars, cycling themselves off for the final lap at the English track. A very eventful race here. much tighter than I expected it to be.
Today was a wild one, again for both series. But in the end, it's a dominating performance from one Sean Dickinson, Sim City Racing, making their presence known with their first win for their organization in this series this season. Second spot today, Elliott White by 6/10. Connor Wagner, Daniel Krasowski, Dominic Olivier are the top 5. Yep, Cortez Kerr, Valverde, along with Bartley, the top 10. 11th spot overall went to Ryan Punchtail with Anderson, Larson, Morales, Spears, and a good recovery for Karl Modov, although 40 seconds back of the winner. Jennifer McDonald quietly in 17th. Nathan Deering, the only AM driver in the top 20 today, in 18th. McLaughlin and Thunhorst round out said top 20. The drivers just outside that range in the potential of the points. Downtown Gary Brown, Thomas Dunn, David Mendanka, Turner Schrull, Chase Brown, Zeka, along with Carmody, along with Lowendick, Walker, and Lamont, the top 30. Monamontos coasting their way to the line along with Martin Crisp, Blake Zini. Almost got to them, but fell 3 seconds back of them in the end. Then the rest of these drivers who finished the race on the lead lap for the most part, AM drivers. Ryans, Brennan, along with Dermadakas, along with Giansetti, Thurman, Morse, McInnes, Alex Caruso, the top 40. Jeremy Gonsalves, we've seen him try and go to the pit lane at the end of the race. He'll finish dead last in the lead lap in 41st. Carrero along with Foe, amongst those 1 lap down. Avando finishes as a DNF 4 laps down. The rest of the drivers did not finish. Conaway along with Kerr, Netbell, and that's J.R. Williams, who ended up essentially not starting the race today, as that is an admin. So, the eventfulness in turn sees Sean Dickinson drive SimCity Racing from the confines of the city everybody likes to build and destroy with dinosaurs to a victory in the virtual cars. Sean, first time this season your group is in victory lane in this series. How are you feeling bringing the car home in P1?
Pretty good. I definitely figured out my setup. I was sweating most of the race with Elliott so close behind me, but I was okay with the P2 as well, so I didn't sweat it too much.
A huge day for the team, to say the very least. What was the turnaround process like with this series compared to what we've seen for the fixed side, where it's not just the car feel you had to adjust, as well as the setup?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit different. I've struggled this whole season so far with this Lambo, and then I finally found my golden ticket to my setup to get it to work. Definitely takes 2 laps before this car is really turned on. You're very skittish, very slippery first couple laps. So,
yeah, a huge jump up potentially for you in the points. A DNF, a slow start on the points with 10th in the opening round, but your best run with a top 5 last week. Now the win today. How big is this confidence-wise for the team? While Martin Crisp has been top 3, consistency has been a huge, huge part of the season that seems to slip back.
yeah, it's definitely great for our team. We're trying to get our team up into the contention to win. We're in P3 right now, I believe. No, it's definitely been great. Martin's extremely fast. We work together all week long on these setups. We'll make a great team here for SimCity Racing, and just trying to see what we can do here. I guess this was my week. Last week was his week, so should be good moving forward.
Very quick final question with the team based in Las Vegas. Notice one thing when doing the background side on your team. What's the involvement of Kurt Busch with your team?
He's actually great friends with the team owner, Jason Allen. So we've actually, a couple people have met him in some NASCAR races. We get to talk to him every now and then. He'll watch some races, but they're both locals to Vegas. So yeah, that's kind of where that all came out of. So
very curious to see if we see Kurt Busch run one of your cars in the series in the future in this series. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks again. See you guys.
That's Sean Dickinson. Overall race winner, pro class winner today. Getting the job done over the youngster Elliott White. Elliott White picking up some valuable points for Precision Racing Esports. He's with Lorenzo.
So, Elliott, P2 in this race. It must feel good that you're coming closer and closer to where you probably want to be in comparison to your content for the championship, given the fact that Carl had a bad day, and you're finished ahead of your rivals.
Yeah, I had a great bounce back from last week at Spa to put me back in contention, so that's really nice. I think especially with the drop week, I think I'm sitting pretty well. But yeah.
Aaron, and with this new BOP basically in motion now in iRacing, and you're going next week to a track that I talked this in the fix, not well known for you and us iRacers. Have you done any runnings in Magny-Cours? How's if you did, how's the car feeling? How's the Audi feeling with this new BOP set in stone for the GT3 cars?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't even own the track, so that will be interesting. As for the BOP, I mean, it's hard to say. I've only really done Silverstone in the past couple of days. But the Audi, after some tweaking, it wasn't too bad. Obviously, it was a little slower, but it wasn't too bad. But I really have no idea, to be honest. No idea what to do for next week. Maybe a car change. We'll see.
Oh, okay. So we have some mystery in the loop, but regardless, Elliot, enjoy the second place. Maybe a few like bumps up for you in the standings, and can't wait to see what you do at the French track in 1 week time.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for the broadcast.
Once again, that's Elliot White coming away with the second spot overall in the race today. Solid run for him and his organization. Meanwhile, we talked about the difficultness for some of the AM drivers to get in the top 20. Only one managed to do so. Nathan Deering, you're 18th overall, but your top's an AM. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. Man, what a race that was, huh? Yeah, last week was super, super disappointing, losing the way I did. So, yeah, this week I wanted nothing short of a win. So I put in the work this week to get this.
So talk us through this race tonight, because you started right alongside your fellow teammates.
Yep.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, you've got the headset on. So what happened amongst that race as eventually you settled into that 5-second gap that seemed to stick?
Yeah, no, I knew if I can get a good quality time down, I could maintain my position. I had a pretty good pace throughout the week. Did just that. I was consistent, hit my marks, and held my spot. Even gave some of the pros a run for their money. So I'm pretty happy with tonight.
So one thing we did discuss, the Funko Pop that's in front of you.
Yeah,
why is it set up on top of your wheel?
So last week I heard you guys talking about my Jeff Gordon car right here. So I wanted to set this up and put it on the broadcast. So his little sunglasses, pretty sweet.
So does it bobble with that wheel?
No, it doesn't. It's stationary. And my wheel is over here, so this is up on top of a Christmas present I haven't given somebody yet.
Okay. Well, congratulations on the Pro-Am side of things. Congratulations on the run.
Yeah, thank you. And shout out to Race Factory, Delta Sport, Extreme Sim Racing. Thank you guys for everything. And also RaceSpot and Precision Racing League. Thank you guys.
Again, that's Nathan Deering coming in with the top spot amongst the M class competitors. Downtown Gary Brown was the second out of those drivers downside. It was outside the top 20. He's with Lorenzo.
Yeah, so Gary, of course, not into the points-banging positions, but P2 in this race, and a lot could have happened, and you got 3 spots up. You started P5 in your category. How does it feel?
Yeah, I felt good. I felt, again, a lot better than last week. Last week was a real bummer, lasting all of about 20 seconds. So, yeah, it was nice to get a complete, solid race in. No incidents, and it just felt good. So it was a good race.
Right.
Couldn't catch Nathan though. It was not happening today.
Oh, but at least you get that podium spot in the AM class. Now moving into Magny-Cours, like I talked with the other drivers, new track for everybody. Some don't have it, some of them have it. What about you? Do you have the track? If you did, and if you did, what's the feeling about it?
So I'm actually really bummed. I think I would do pretty well at that course. It's a lot like this course in the sense that it's that flat, sort of fast, all-out track. but I'm going to be out of town next week for a family obligation. So unfortunately, I'm going to miss next week. So I'm pretty bummed since I think I'm starting to feel like a little bit of groove here with the car. So yeah, too bad. I'll have to use it as one of my drop weeks, but moving forward, we'll hope to come back strong and finish up the season good.
Well, at least you know what you have set in stone, and then you're probably going to be back at Daytona. So enjoy a break with your family, and we'll see you back at Daytona.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Once again, that's downtown Gary Brown. And finishing the race in 21st spot amongst the field today. Not too many, if any, AM drivers, though, today able to score points. Some of them really having to fight for round points. But Renzo, a new track for these drivers to face off against for the PRL schedule next week. We've seen yesterday how drivers fared when it came to some of the action, when it came to especially some of the GTR86, or GR86, I should say. Now, these drivers next week will get their turn in French land.
Yeah, we're still stay in Europe, just go across the canal, going to Nevers, and basically Manicourt is a track that came in this build. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be a new track. Has a lot of GT pedigree, GP pedigree as well. But for everyone over here, it's going to be their first. And first time you never forget, whether it's good or bad.
Again, be sure to tune in next week for the action. 45 minutes on the clock, so 5 minutes longer, 55% fuel the distance for the Round 5 event from France. On that note, it's time to say goodbye from the United Kingdom. My co-announcer tonight, Renzo Bonder. For our producer, Connery Maddock, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for watching. Once more, you've been watching the PRL's GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series action, powered by VCO.